All right, so sticking with TV again, let's talk about the fall of the House of Usher. Apologies for this review coming out. Yeah, yeah, okay. Usher, Usher, Usher. And thank you so much, Tracy, for beating me to the chase because I was going to throw some Usher year references. That
Well, I,
specifically.
I, I was
So
going, I was going to say, I was going to make some My Way references, but yeah, okay.
oh yeah, my way. Yeah, yeah.
Technically,
Of course, of course.
you can do every episode to an Usher song. Like, I mean, from
Yep.
episode one is This Is My Confession,
Yep.
and then you can
I was
go,
thinking
She
that
Likes
too.
It My
Yes.
Way is episode. You could literally have fun with it.
Yeah, no, on God. I swear, like, when I saw the first episode, how it was played out, I was thinking confessions, like, I was going to type, I was going to put up a Facebook post of it, I was like, all right, something, confessions this, but I couldn't come up with anything, right? So the last thing I really came up with when I finished watch everything was Usher Family Values, because, I just kind of see it like, okay, this is like the new Addams Family, but, in a weird modern context, right?
Yeah, real world sense, yeah.
Yeah, in a real world sense, right? But so I was hearing a lot of great things about this show, like I would say like a month or so before this show even dropped, right? I think IGN gave this a full 10 out of 10. It's like, oh shit, this is a big deal, right? But what intrigued me just from the jump, right? Because I didn't watch the trailer for it till like leading up to its release, right, on Netflix, is the references to Edgar Allan Poe, right? And I particularly took notice of the titles themselves, right? And referencing stuff like, say, for example, The Mask of the Red Death, The Raven, The Black Cat, stuff like that, right? Which were adapted into film. And my initial plan for this review and this episode in particular was that I was going to, pick one of the cult classic, Roger Corman films from the 60s, which he made for American International Pictures. Yep. Where, he and, the late great Vincent Price worked on 8 films, right, based off of Poe's work, right? But honestly, just before we get into the review itself, right, and this is where I could kind of rope in CC here because, they didn't see it. I only saw 3 of those films, right? And, sorry, 4 of them. That would be, of course, House of Usher. That's the first film that kicked things off. I saw The Mask of the Red Death. I saw The Raven. That was a really interesting watch. And I saw The Pit and the Pendulum, right? And... Sorry?
So you didn't get to Haunted Palace, you said?
Yeah, I didn't get to see the others, unfortunately. I just saw just those 4 films, right?
The Haunted Palace is really interesting because that one's actually Corman himself downplayed it at the time because at the time this particular writer wasn't a big deal, but the Haunted Palace is actually really interesting because that one's actually a Lovecraft adaptation.
Right.
The others are all Edgar Allan Poe, but the Haunted Palace is actually an adaptation of H.P. Lovecraft. And you can tell. Also, one note that I love about all of these that they're all adapted by a brilliant novelist, but also film writer and TV writer, Richard Matheson, the man who wrote. Right. Yep, who at the time was doing a lot of writing for Corman, American International, and just a bunch of stuff in general. He also wrote the brilliant script for The Incredible Shrinking Men, which is one of those.
I need to watch that.
Oh, that's one of those movies that you go to. Okay, yeah, I'm ready for some '50s pulp, and then like an hour in, you're like, why am I having an existential crisis?
Yeah, yeah. It's okay. I don't know if Matheson did that. Okay.
Yeah, no, he was. Yeah, Matheson. Which one of the reasons I love the man, and I think what I like about the Corman Poe cycle is that. With all of them, I mean, there's some that are better than others. For me personally, Mask of the Red Death and Fall of the House of Usher are the 2 best ones. I like Haunted Palace as well a lot, but since it's a Lovecraft adaptation, it feels a little more adjacent than that. I think for people who like psychological thrillers, you might like Living. Is it Living Burial or Buried Alive? That one doesn't have Vincent Price. But that one's just about like a man who has like an absolute paranoia and like phobia of being buried alive, and it manifests in all kind of weird ways. It's like Corman does Hitchcock. It's really interesting.
Right.
But then like
it's called a premature burial.
a premature burial. Yep, that one. Yeah, I think like I like the cycle a lot. Criterion had them a few months back because I believe they were made by American International. They were distributed by MGM, and since MGM recently got bought up by Amazon, the rights to a lot of their catalog are in this weird middle spot. But they're the kind of movies that if you can find them in the wild, I do highly recommend them. The Raven is I think of The Raven in like a similar category to Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein. So I recommend that one if you're looking for a horror comedy. Yes, it's a really funny comedy. I think Vincent Price is underrated as a comedian.
Agreed. Yeah. And I didn't even swear to God, right? I didn't notice him until the very end. Jack Nicholson is in that though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
Nicholson was one of those who got his start with Corman. Like some of Nicholson's earliest roles and earliest his performances were in Roger Corman projects, either things he directed or produced. That's how he got his start. That's how he ended up in a truly terrible film he made with Boris Karloff called The Terror, which is in the public domain. If anyone wants to go check it out, you can probably just watch it on YouTube. That one is basically while they were filming The Raven, they had a couple extra days. So Corman kind of was like, well, we got done early. It would be a shame to waste all these sets and these actors we have lying around. So they made a movie in like 3 or 4 days. And so The Terror feels like a movie that was made in like 3 or 4 days. Highly recommended if you're looking for a bad movie night for that one. But the post cycle I love a lot. They're harder to find, which I find a little. I mean, unless of course you if you're prepared to sail the high seas, I would start with,
which is what I did. That's how I stumbled on those films. I'm sorry that's what I did, right?
No, you're fine. Yeah, good.
Yeah, so back to Netflix now, right? Mm-hmm. So I just sort of did that just as, because I haven't seen those films, right? I just felt it would be a cool idea to at least watch some of them, in preparation for this, right? But because I know that, this show here is not going to be like, a remake of those films or a retelling of those Poe short stories, right? Or poems, right? I know it's going to be its own thing, it's going to tell its own story, but it's going to pull influences from those legendary stories, right? And I would say, Cece, seeing that I imagine you're also familiar with the source material, it will be cool, like, when you watch this, you'll be like, oh, that's a reference to this, and when he says that, that's a reference to that, and whether it's visual, whether it's an image or name, Like, case in point, there's a great reference to the Rue Morgue, right? As a reference to Murder in the Rue Morgue. I was like, that's really clever, right?
Well, but Flanagan gets pretty deep. It's one of the reasons I think King and who else has he adapted? He adapted King. He adapted The Haunting of Hill House.
Right.
Who was the kind of younger horror author? He did like a series with like a bunch of teenagers in a mental institute or something like that. I never watched it.
Last year, I didn't see it because I heard it was all right, but nothing worth killing up myself to see. Let me just find it quickly, and then I'll just do a synopsis and we'll jump into reviews. That would be The Midnight Club. I haven't seen that.
The Midnight Club, yeah. What I know from Flanagan is that he gets in pretty deep when he adapts. Like, he doesn't just adapt the individual story. He tries to kind of, I don't know if this makes sense, but like immerse himself in the world of the writer. If like the world that the writer creates. It's one of the things I really like about when he made Dr. Sleep. Is that it actually felt like
that film, yeah.
It actually felt like it took place within the world of Stephen King's books, while also like
okay, all right,
following up from The Shining in a way that I really appreciate. Like, even though I don't like the Kubrick Shining, I felt myself kind of revisiting it and rethinking about it after watching Dr. Sleep and going, maybe there are parts of this that I actually appreciate, because Flanagan like does such a good job of making it feel more Stephen King than Kubrick.
And I say okay. I say okay because for me, The Shining is my all-time favorite horror film. Right. So moving on.
I'm sorry.
So yeah. No. That's fine. Teach his own. Right? Teach his own. Yeah, so what this miniseries is about in a nutshell is that we're centered on the Usher family, right? And pretty much the father, the patriarch, is the CEO of this pharmaceutical company that's
Right.
been accused for years and years and years.
Yeah,
Of
they
creating,
kind of parallel to the
pills
Sacklers.
that. Yes,
Even though the Sacklers
right.
are. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the name of the company is Fortunado Pharmaceuticals, right? And we learn later on how he being Roderick, right, acquired this business, right? He has a twin sister by the name of Marlon, played by Mary McDonald, sorry. And you kind of see how they acquired this company in the first place, right? In the early 80s, right? But yeah, so Roderick, they set up early on, just can't keep it in his pants, right? So he has 6 children by 5 different mothers, right? So, five different women, sir, right? So when he's introduced, like when the story starts at the very beginning, that's in the early 70s, he has, 2 kids, right? That would be Frederick and Tamerlane, right? But yeah, you have the 4 other kids, and of course, Frederick and Tamerlane are always quick to call them bastards and all that, right? So yeah, in a nutshell, they're all rich and they spoiled, like incredibly spoiled. And it's not just the father who is corrupt, but pretty much everybody in this family is corrupt, save for his grandchild, as in Roderick's grandchild. She's like the only pure person, or I should say the most intelligent person out of all of this, right? But everybody else is conceited and straight up just full of shit. You just love to hate them, right? They are just so rotten to the core, but you will love to hate every one of them, right? And during this court trial, right, where this particular lawyer, this district attorney, right, who is played
Carl
Lumley.
who's played who's played by the great Carl Lumley, who plays Auguste Dupin, or Dupin, right? It's not Dupin, but it's Dupin. How they pronounce his surname? It's not Dupin, right? From what I remember. Yeah, and he's been trying to bring them down for years, and you learn why actually in some really great flashbacks, right? But yeah, so he reveals that there is an informant inside the family, right, who is feeding him information and trying to bring them down, right? Also, there is the family's attorney and pretty much a fixer by the name of Arthur Pym, who is played by Mark Hamill. Yes,
right.
the Mark Hamill is in this as well, right? Adopting this gravelly voice, you know what I mean? To the point I was wondering if that's how the man literally sounds like in real life. I was like, wow, is that your voice? Luke, is that how you really sound? I don't know, right? But yeah, so once the family finds out, oh, there's a mole in the family, that just starts this sort of infighting between everyone, right? And long story short, Roderick now, this is like the framework of this entire series. Yeah, he has this long sit down with Lupin, right? At his old home, and I mean, it's pretty much a haunted house by now, because Roderick is just seeing all these really like morbid imagery, but the imagery that he's seeing, surprise surprise, is of his dead children, because throughout the show you see each and every one of his kids get killed in the most gruesome ways imaginable, but it all relates to who they are as persons, right? Who they are, what they're obsessed with, and what they're addicted to, right? And they just all go out in gloriously gory ways, right? To the point that you will just have like you will literally, or you probably have videos for this by now, ranking, the best deaths of, the deaths of this show, right? From worst to best, right? Yeah, it does that, right? But while all this is going on now, you really see how these deaths and just everything that's gone on throughout Roderick's life has, tormented him over the years, right? And I'll close with this, right? There's a mysterious figure, this woman by the name of Verna, who is played by the great Carla Gugino, right? Who has appeared in numerous Mike Flanagan, films, right? Yeah, she just shows up ever so often to, torment everyone, right, in the family as well, too. And she kind of manifests herself in different ways. Slight spoiler, she usually shows up before a character dies, right? And you just see how things play out from there. So I talked long enough. Ricardo, take it away. Since you saw this before me, what are your thoughts on this miniseries here?
Yeah, so this Flanagan brother, he don't miss, boy.
He don't miss.
I really like this though. So the last thing of his I really liked was Midnight Mass. I love Midnight Mass.
Yeah.
And I thought that was great. This was I didn't know what happens that I didn't know it had so many like good character actors in this. Like, oh, Mark Hamill in this, what? Like,
Yeah,
I had to
I
say,
was surprised when I saw the name Henry Thomas, but I was like,
yeah,
oh, homie from E.T. though.
yeah,
And just let's like spoiler, he is scum in this, so he's so
real
scummy
trash.
in this, but
Yeah,
he's like,
real trash.
like out of everybody, he's the character that I hated the most, but especially what he does is like, jeez.
Yeah, I didn't know Carl Lumley was gonna be in this. I didn't watch any trailers. I was like, okay, I'm gonna catch it later, whatever.
Right.
And then brought Bruce Greenwood. Big fan of him.
Yes.
You know, he always just bring the A material for me. So I was like, all right, cool. Let me give this a shot. And then I ended up just turning out to love this. Especially, I was watching it, kind of enjoying it, and then the end of that second episode, I'm like, all right, I'm hooked in.
Yeah.
You have me. You got me.
What we'll just say, right? You know when there's one episode to stick with you, when at the end of the episode you just hear silence.
Yeah,
and you just see credits. What is that? It's like, all right, they want this episode to stick with you.
Yeah,
they will stick with you.
Yeah, let's get them cheering a good chemical peel, so to speak, right?
Boy.
I really enjoyed this. This was really smart. Here's the trick to me, like as I said, one of the reasons I'm not into horror, because I find a lot of horror, at least horror in the how I have been grew up with it in the 80s and 90s, has always been not particularly attached to me culturally, or what makes a horror work. And to me, the simplest way to tie a horror is what you do is you tie it to real world shit that scare you, or real world shit that is making you anxious or whatever it is. And then nail that with this, because I have been absolutely, livid about the Sackler family and their behavior, and to them to make a nice real world parallel. Yeah, right. Reason why Midnight Mass worked, because I grew up as a Catholic. That's why. That's why that series works so well. This real world shit involving the pharmaceutical company and the war on drugs and the Sackler trash, right? But this now, yeah, they really nail the whole corruption conceit of and feeding that back into the horror. So they do the horror concept, but these people deserve it. Like that, but that's why it works.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
That's why it works.
Yeah.
It works in its reverse conceit of subverting the premise. And yeah, I just had me the entire time though. And well, it eventually culminates in that famous lemon speech. And like, yeah, that's what's going on. This man did they nail. And I was like, yeah, this Flanagan brother, you know what's going on. You know what's up, as they say. And I'm not the biggest follower of him. Like I kind of like Dr. Sleep. But mostly because I'm not really super into like The Shining and that whole universe of that Stephen King, I don't know what to call it, multiverse or whatever it is. So like I had to get into it later, but I was like, I enjoyed for what it was. But it's only until Midnight Mass and some of his earlier stuff, I was like, all right, this man really roping me out. This was excellent. This was truly excellent for me. I loved it.
Yeah. Tracy, I'll leave you for last for this one, right? But yeah, Ricardo, totally agree though. I absolutely enjoy this as well, right? What this does so well, right, is that it does make references to Edgar Allan Poe, right?
Right.
But it just does it in these like really smart, creative, and subtle ways, right? So case in point, the pit and the pendulum. What I would say without spoiling anything, there's a pit and there's a pendulum, right?
Right.
and when I saw that, I was like, whoa, this is so brilliant, Dre. Like if you're at least marginally familiar with that story or the film itself, when you see that moment, it was like, yeah. And for me, that is like the best death in that movie. In that series, with the episode 2 as a close second. That one was gross and messed up. But after give it to the pit and the pendulum moment, that's all I'll say though, and it's because kind of selling out myself here because I just hate this person so much. Way it was like, yeah, you got what you deserve here, right? But yeah, to touch on the deaths though, they are great. They are creative. They'll keep you on the edge of your seat. I love how they usually close off an episode and then you'll just cut to black and you'll just see the title card. Like this, how it does that. It's just so clever. Like I just be smiling every time I just hear doom. I just see the title show up, right? It's so well done, right? But I would say for people who go into this expecting this to be like this non-stop, horror fest, it's not that, right?
Right.
It early on it did remind me of American Horror Story, where you will take like people in the real world and just make them so large in life and scummy and just Let's just villainous, you know, for the sake of being villainous. And you just throw all this weird shit at them now, and you just see how they just break apart, like mentally, right? And I guess physically, right? But in this case, no, it's really, well, yes, it is about the dissolvement of the Usher family, right? But you just see it play out more in a dramatic kind of sense, right? A lot of people will compare this show to Succession, and I will say after watching this, now I have a reason to watch Succession, so now I have 2 months to catch up on it. So
Right.
when years in, and people say Succession is the best show of 2023, I could be like, I understand, but thanks to fall of the House of Usher, you know, I was given a reason why, right? Because, yeah, it's, you know, rich, spoiled family, right? And, yeah, look at me and my money, and I could pay you to shut up, right? You know, while I get away with nefarious shit, right? And you just see how everything just sort of falls apart as a result of that, right? Bruce Greenwood is fantastic in this though, as Roderick, right? And yes, that monologue about lemons, that's all I'll say. Also shout out to Summerlee for putting me on to this though. But yeah, I watched that scene twice though, and you know how you know is a great moment though, all done in one take, right? And it's just the cynicism of it though that I love, right? And you just see it ooze throughout the entirety of this dread. This notion of, yeah, we are rich and we could get away with this, and we, you know, people would die off of our products, but hey, you know what? That's just a price to pay for being healthy, right? That's just a price to pay for being immortal, so to speak, right? Speaking of that, though, I love the comparison between Roderick's pharmaceutical company and what his sister Madeline is doing with, you know, this whole, like, at first it was kind of weird, but, you know, like, she just basically wants to she wants to pivot to more, like, technological stuff, so she wants to incorporate AI into the mix and all that.
Right.
Like, at first it was, like, a huge stretch, but, like, when the story started to play out and when you kind of bring it back up again, it's like, okay. Still kind of weird, but I understand, right? Because she's more talking about, you know, just progress now, you know, just move, advancements, right? And I love how they set that up early on too, right? Where she and her brother was working in Fortunado back in the 70s, and just the shit that she had to deal with, right? By the way, the boss back then, I forgot the guy who plays it though. He's played by Robert Longstreet, right?
Okay.
He was just a scummy boy, like, my God, but in a real sexist kind of way though. But in the context of, well, the time period in the 70s, like, yeah, it make a lot of sense though. And the way how he goes out, because surprise, surprise, he goes out. Yeah, if you're a Poe fan, you'll be like, I know that. Yeah, I like that. Right? I just love how these episodes are purposefully titled, right? So, case in point, Mask of the Red Death is purposefully titled because, if you're familiar with the story, how it plays out though is again, it's just a smart and clever tribute to Poe's work, right? But for me though is, you know, the Pit of the Pendulum though, that particular episode, and when you see how that plays out, right? That really worked for me. The black cat was kind of hilarious for me though, because it involves a black cat, and you know, as that's just citing you know, Double Toad said, there's a lot of gotcha bitch moments, right, where you just see the cat sort of appear and just do all kind of like you know, basically want to attack her, and where that led to that was pretty intense as well, but also funny as well too, because I find myself cracking up at some moments. They actually shout out a certain actor, and you know, a certain prop that he uses in his films that all say, like, there's that reference to him though, this had me going to, but I was like, all right, well, it's Netflix, so they had to shout him out because he in one of the biggest Netflix movies of the year, right? So that's your spoiler right there, right? Also, they throw a little blink in your missing reference to Flanagan's work, because, alright, so slight spoiler, somebody was on Netflix and they just went on looking for a film, and I see Gerald's Game is like, alright, Netflix, I see what you do there, right? But speaking of Mike Flanagan though, from both our writing and directing perspective though, he kills it, right? And not all the episodes are directed by him, mind you, right? But his influence is there, right? The writing is strong throughout though. Again, it's just how cynical it is though. It really reminded me of Midnight Mass though, because of how just how brutally cynical it is, right? But just sort of honest with just how people move in the real world. Like, this is how I'd imagine a guy who running this pharmaceutical company would you know, act, right? Case in point, right? So Roderick actually has a new wife, right? and she's actually addicted to his product, right? Well, one
Right.
of the pills that he manufactures, right? And she wants to get off it, right? But he talk about, well, if you get off it, you'll experience. And he just does this laundry list of all the side effects, Tread. I just say, like, Roderick, you motherfucker, you. Like,
You know.
bro, like you motherfucker, you. Tread. Like, at times you will sympathize with him, right? You'll actually feel sorry for him, right? Especially when his children are getting killed, right? And you can really feel how that torments him, right? Especially when he sees the images of his children, right? But yeah, this moment where it's like, nah, boy, like you deserve to die, right? Also, as far as the scares go, right? There's some genuine scares in this. There's some genuine intensity to do. There's a couple of jump scares though that legit had me jumping, right? So, there's one involving the death of a particular child, right? That's all I'll say without spoiling anything, right? And I just say watching the scene, just watch it, and the jump scare just literally hits you like an explosion, boom. And I jump at that shit, I jump at that. Like, usually jump scares don't get to me like that, but that one in particular really, really got to me, right? But really, at the end of the day, there's a lot of dramatic weight in this as well. And just to go back to what I was saying earlier, what I should have finished up with earlier, is that if you go into this expecting this to be like this non-stop scare fest, yeah, you're gonna be disappointed by this, right? Because really, it's a drama. It's a family drama. That's where I guess the comparisons to Succession will come in. But there are some genuine scares and deaths and kills in this, right? But don't go into this expecting this to be this non-stop horror film, right? Because horror fest, because it's not that, right? The performances are strong from everybody in this, in my opinion. Carl Lumbly killed it. Carla Gugino, though, she was great, though, as Verna. I like how they just kept her identity a secret up until the very end as well. And, how she just sort of shows up before the kills themselves. This kind of pretty much, like, it took me a while. Like, oh, that's who you are. Because even though the show doesn't tell you, I assume that she is a particular figure. And if you remember, just giving all the spoiler here, if you're familiar with Mask of the Red Death, you'll be like, oh, okay, that's who the reference is to. Okay, I think I get it. Okay, I like that, right? But yeah, she crushes it. Everybody is great in this as well, right? And they do their thing, right? And even though they are scummy motherfuckers, though, they're given a lot of depth and to their character. So they're not all scummy, right? Like, there's varying levels of scummery to these characters, though. But yeah, you kind of do feel it for them when they did die, though. Like, they really do go out in messed up ways. T-Boy was like, nah, but you really have to go like that, boy? Jeez, right? But yeah, this is another win for Mike Flanagan. Whether you're a fan of Edgar Allan Poe's works, or you're marginally familiar with his works, though, you will still enjoy this for what it is, right? But again, just don't go into this expecting it to be some horror fest or gore fest, right? At the heart of it all, it's a really strong family drama, and it's just, again, just as the title says, it's just so appropriate. Yeah, it's really the fall of this family here, but you really, really feel it for these individuals, though. You really see how corruption itself just tear, like, literally rip this family apart, right? Well, before we get to Tracy, I'll just give my rating, and then Ricardo, you could give your rating, right? So for me, I'm going to give this a lighter, decent 4.5 out of 5, man. I absolutely enjoy this. This is one of the year's best TV shows. Expect this to be on many people's best of lists, including Succession, which once again, I will give make the effort to check out, thanks to this show here. So yeah, thank you, Flanagan. You knocked out the park here. Keep doing you, dude. Keep doing these really, like, thought-provoking horror films, right? Whether it's serialized or, theatrically released, right? Keep doing your thing. So yeah, Ricardo, your final thoughts or read, and then we'll close things off with Tracy.
Yeah, no, as I said, Flanagan don't miss. He gave us a really, really solid product overall. Just him stitching everything together with using, old horror tropes and then modernize it for something that builds real world anxiety and emotion into a situation. That's where horror does work for me, and this dude hit it out of the park. All the players really, really work at it. I didn't think I would enjoy Carl Lumbly as much in this. I didn't know he was going to be in this. I'm like, oh shit, he's great in this. Bruce Greenwood, as mentioned, and then yeah, Mark Hamill, like, holy shit, like, he was so good in this too. And what he was.
I forgot to mention that. Yeah, he was great. Yeah.
Yeah, and what he represented, just the idea of what does make these people, these kind of trash people get away, is that there's always have a weirdo who have no problem taking the fall for them. Right? That was the something. and that's why it worked so well. And everything has come together so well in terms of its conceit. And I was, I'm somewhat not super familiar with Poe. I just kind of know the general conceits and about the writer. But like, I immediately got, this tying into his original material. I'm now going to look back to the books or the movies you guys mentioned to make better sense of it. Because I don't think I appreciate it as full as is. But I was just enjoying it for what it was, and he just told a really great story. Surprisingly subversive material, all things considered, and personally, I really really loved it. Rating, yeah, like a 8 out of 10, high 8 out of 10 to be honest. Yeah, this is probably going to be my best of the year. With all that extra little bit of supplementary material, I'll enjoy to make better sense of this. Thematic wise, loved it as is, and it'd probably go up as higher when I do that. So yeah.
Right. So yeah, Tracy, close things off. Throw as much Usher references as you want to. You ain't got a call. That's all I'll say.
Listen,
But yeah,
I'm actually kind of glad that you brought up the idea of Succession, because in my notes I had it scribbled as horror Succession.
Right.
So that legitimately is a real thing. I was kind of hoping somebody online, because I don't have the time for that, would take the Succession theme and put it over the House of Usher and see how it plays out.
somebody will.
Somebody in the universe will mash it up. I want to say to the listeners out there, if you are a person who, for whatever reason, you may not necessarily jive with horror or horror tinged material, the fall of the House of Usher is the kind of product, is a kind of series, it's a kind of piece of television, it's a kind of work that you can get into and not feel like if you are being overwhelmed with horror. Like, anybody who knows me knows Halloween and Carnival are my 2 days off. I already wear enough masks. I look like a horror sometimes of my own self. So I just take those 2 holidays and those 2 occasions and just bap out. But when I started to hear word of what was going on with the fall of the House of Usher, I was a bit intrigued. And then I read that it was, this is based on the works of Edgar Allan Poe. Now, I will say this. There were things of Edgar Allan's that I knew of, but I didn't know. Like, I didn't know the fall of the House of Usher, like that short story. And I was like, wait, how many years have I been on this planet? And that was me. I was like, oh my God. So what it caused me to do, and I thank you, Mike Flanagan, was to go back. Because if you go on like the certain sites that gives you like the PDFs of all the short stories of Poe, and it actually made you go back and read The Fall of the House of Usher, read The Black Cat, which was deeply hilarious, The Pit and the Pendulum. I feel like if you are a literary person, if you're into literature, if you're a literary person, you might actually have a bit more of appreciation for Poe, and it may actually make you go back and read Edgar Allan Poe. So that is a really cool thing. There was a vibe that I was trying to figure out what it is about this series that made me want to sit all the way to the end. And Ricardo touched on it very well. So I'll just kind of beef off of that in terms of the idea of real world stuff that pulls you in. Because, I always make the joke that, a friend of mine in the office always says Rasta no devil, so she don't watch horror movies.
Right.
And I kind of fall in line with that. I got enough of my own crap. I like sleeping. But the fact that these are real life jokey scenes, with people who have real life proclivities that are just weird, you kind of be like, oh, okay, I get why X, Y, and Z would be happening and why this is a real thing. And even that lemon speech, if for no other reason, I advise you all to keep whoever is listening to this and you haven't seen it, go and watch it and just sit and wait for that lemon speech. There are 2 speeches in that series. 3, in that series that works well. It is the lemon speech by Roderick, Winner's speech to him, where she's talking about money and less fortunate and how people operate with that. sorry about that. Winner's speech to Pym, and Madeline's final speech to Roderick. Those three monologues are so top tier. It is absolutely amazing. I I'm one of those people who I would not have given it maybe a second thought if I didn't hear how good it was and how influenced it was. It also is kind of amazing to hear, you guys at the beginning of the episode of the show today talking about how Stephen King likes him, because I was sitting down there and I was watching it and I was taken back to watching these 90s TV Stephen King made for TV movies. There was one
Right.
with Colm Feorge. I can't remember what it was, but I think it was called The Village or something like that. It was Colm Feorge. It's set in a seaside town, and there's this man who's come for everybody's children, and you could get the idea that he might be death or the devil or hell itself or something. But it was so. There was something about that obviously has stuck with me to today, and I can tell that years to come, I'm going to be thinking about the fall of the House of Usher and think about how beautiful it was and how that reminded me of that. It does work wonders there. And I would also throw in, just for the sake of being hilarious, I would say this. Confessions by Usher Raymond is episode 1. Love in the DJ Got Us Fallen in Love or Love in the Club, you can choose whichever one you want, would be episode 2. Usher's Oh My God, oh my God, that would be Pit and the Pendulum. I would throw in the idea of God, what is it? You Got It Bad towards the end, maybe episode 8 or episode 9, because how Frederick was operating is like, geez, you web man, give me a break. So that is, and that's just kind of part of it. I'm sure if you go through a lot more of Usher's catalogs, you will be able to see the things there. What I thoroughly enjoyed as well is getting a mini, I mean, they didn't interact, but getting a mini Battlestar Galactica reunion, because in this show you got Mary McDonald,
Yeah.
and you also got Michael, who is Michael Trio, who Michael was a Cylon. He was a Cylon. Spoiler for anybody who has never seen it. He was a Cylon, and he was married
Yep.
to Starbuck. And then, of course, Mary McDonald is President Rosalind. And I
Yep.
mean, President Rosalind can do no wrong as far as I'm concerned. So just the idea of having those two,
Except steal an election.
except steal an election. Yes, I don't steal a whole election because you couldn't afford. Anyhow, I'm going off topic, but yes, that was brilliant. I mean, Luke Skywalker as Arthur Pym
He's
is
so good at
just inspired. It's so inspired. It really it felt really good. I was loving how Dupin's character was, both his young side and his Carl Lumbly side. How it ended was very nice. I will say, without spoiling, there was one character in there that I really felt that her fate did not necessarily need to be tied to the rest of those bastards, but I also understood why it needed to happen because of X, Y, and Z. But she was literally the innocent, and I was like, "Nah, man, come on, you're gonna do something with her." All in all, for someone who does not veer into the horror genre too much, and I say too much because there are things that say they're horror, but you sit down on it and it's like, this is so delicious. I need it. Like Us from, what's his face?
Jordan Peele.
Monkey Paw Productions.
Yeah, Jordan Peele.
Jordan Peele, things like Us, stuff like that you just be like, oh, I kind of need to sit down and watch this. I will watch it in the daytime, but I need to see this. So that is where this comes into play. So again, closing off, if you've never really cared for horror, or if it's something that you'd just be like, not me and this shit, I still think that you can sit down and watch The Fall of the House of Usher. Sir Bailey is right. It's not this super amped up horror fest. I have a friend of mine who said to me today, he went and saw Saw, and he was watching the rest of the Saw franchise. I was like, good for you, pal. That's way out of my particular, playground and comfort zone. But The Fall of the House of Usher, what Flanagan has done for this is just, it is chef's kiss. So I will give this a 9 out of 10 I would give it a 10 out of 10 because I really have no flaws with it. But, just for the sake of being ridiculous, I would give it a 9 out of 10. I would say there's something that you should go and watch. I would say that it has something for everybody. I would say, to agree with everybody else on the chat that it veers into the real worldness, and it is because of the real worldness that is what makes it super scary. So yeah, and it really is Gothic Succession for all intents and purposes. So you have that to throw in as well. Good show, very good show.